So the next couple of videos are going to be tied into each other in a couple different ways. But I've been talking to a lot of just like coaches and athletes, and I wanted to get some insight. But this is something I want to share as to why recording and taking splits is so important on a cross country course, especially as a coach, especially if it's a course that you run multiple times in a season, right? Let's just say you mean you could do K splits, mile splits if it's possible, like on an 8K course or even a 5K course or whatever. You take mile splits and see where your athletes are at. So, well, why is it so important? Well, it depends on the type of course you're in. You can have a flat course, you have a rolling course. You can have a little bit of both, where the hills are in the beginning, or the middle, or the end. And what does that do? It allows you to see where some of the deficiencies and strengths are for some athletes. Now, who goes out too fast, right? Does it affect the rest of the course? And so on. Who's stronger on the hills? And then how do you take that progression from one race to the next? You could take a look at it and say, okay, he or she started out here. They started out a little bit faster here, but they got a lot faster towards here. So that means they didn't, they're getting fitter, obviously, but they're not going out too fast. It allows you to design workouts accordingly. It allows you to design some of their training accordingly. Where if the course is like if the hills are, just to say Van Cortlandt Park in the Bronx, where you start out flat and then you go into the hills and then you come back out flat. It allows you to design workouts where the hilly part of a loop is in the middle to simulate the course. All right. Or you can even do some hard, fast stuff and then do some rolling stuff and then do some hard, fast stuff as another way of simulating the course. Okay. By taking mile splits on each course, it allows you to monitor and journal who gets stronger towards the end of the race, who gets not stronger towards the end of the race. So if you need to tinker with somebody's training a little bit, you have the ability to do that by taking these splits accordingly. And especially if it's a flat course, it allows you to see who's got the legs, who's got the ability to maintain a pace or even get faster as races get more intense, more difficult as the season progresses, as people get fitter. But again, it also allows you to see who also can simulate well, meaning who can run flat courses well off of flat and fast workouts, who can run hilly courses well off of hilly workouts, and so on and so forth. Again, it allows you to kind of separate your pure strength athletes from some of your pure speed athletes, for the people who have a little bit of both, and so on. But by taking those splits, okay, it allows you to modify their training in a way that makes it progressive in nature, and allows them to get progressively better throughout the season, progressively stronger, progressively faster, and so on. So, if you have a course that you run multiple times in a season, I encourage you highly as a coach to take mile splits and see where your athletes are at from race to race to race. Because again, you can see who slows down throughout the race, who maintains even pace, who picks up throughout the race. And it allows you to tinker with their training accordingly so that everybody is at their best at the end of the season when it counts the most. Okay. This is where that coaching with the eye comes into play as well. Okay. This is where taking notes comes into play. Okay. And combining them together with the ultimate goal of having your athletes peak at the same time, or as many of them as possible peaking at the same time, which is a very difficult thing to do. Okay. It also allows you to determine if some athletes might need to race themselves into shape because they didn't have that big of a summer. Some people had a bigger summer, or had a bigger summer, might not need to do the same thing. So by taking notes and taking splits, like Van Cortlandt Park, there's essentially three pieces. Okay. And the high school course, particularly, if it's a 4K, if you're going to run the Manhattan College, you're from start to the bridge. It's about 1,200 meters. The back loop, back hills itself, 2 kilometers. I measured it with a metric wheel of rolling hills, but at different parts of the loop. And then it's 800 meters from the bridge to the finish. So it's a deceptive course. Okay, and 800 meters sometimes a little bit longer, and that's downhill and onto the flats. So how you race that accordingly, okay, you can build workouts around that to make it seem as if they're ready as possible for going out fast on the flats, and then getting into the hills, and then going back out on a flat, recovering from the hills and going back out and seeing how strong you can finish. Okay. This is where taking splits comes into play. Whether it's an 8K race, whether it's a 5K race, 6K race, doesn't matter. But it helps you as a coach, gives you a lot of data as to how to design your training accordingly based on the courses that you plan on racing, particularly if you happen to run a course more than one time in a season. So I hope you found this helpful. Okay. Ask me questions. Load up the feedback. I mean, load up the comments with questions if you have any. I'm happy to answer them. Blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com is my email. I'll be talking about this in a lot greater detail as we go on, particularly now that we're approaching cross country season. We'll get a little bit more into race specific details. I've got cross country training programs for you for high school and college, summer training programs, all for middle distance runners, all different types of stuff. If there's something I don't have on here, let me know and I'll get it on here for you. But have a great season, everybody. Train hard, train smart, and I'll talk to you next time.